Good morning, guys. Happy holidays, and welcome to today's podcast. I've got Liz Harr on the show, and she's a nationally recognized expert in high growth marketing, and she is the head of the firm's technology and consulting practices. She's going to talk to us all about the work that she's done. She's a managing partner over at Hinge. And for the audience that is interested in branding and marketing for professional services, Liz is our guest. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so briefly discuss you, your background, your story, and I'm excited to dive into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I have a very non-traditional path to marketing, if you will. So yes, the firm I lead is a marketing and branding agency, and we work with professional services experts and the practices or the firms they lead. However, my background has nothing to do with traditional marketing. I have a master's in economics. I am partly fluent in Japanese. Used to be much more fluent than I am now, but my path was really around analytics and how to grow companies. When I came across Hinge, I saw such a good synergy because that, after all, is what we do at Hinge. We help our clients grow, and we just teach them how to do that through attention to their brand. So it's a nice synergy after all.
Yeah, interesting. And the first question I have for you is for the audience listening and they're interested and you sparked their curiosity. What is your unique proposition? What do clients come to you for?
Clients come to us for an answer that really isn't readily available on how to grow and scale when what you're selling is an intangible, when what you're selling is expertise. It's real. There are a lot of answers out there, and it has to do with shiny rocks and flashy messaging on how to grow and scale companies when you have a widget. But what about when you sell expertise? How do you sell that intangible? So that's really what clients come to us for, is to teach them a prescriptive, efficient way to building wealth for their firms.
Interesting. So we'll talk about high growth marketing foundations and what are fundamental pillars of high growth marketing that every firm should prioritize.
I would say that it's really around the fundamental first and foremost. What you need to do is become visible for the things that your audience cares about. So within your lane of expertise, what is that 4 a.m. problem that your audience grapples with? Knowing that through their lens, not yours, but through their lens, how do they describe that? And then figuring out where you're relevant in that picture. That's really the first thing. I wouldn't spend a penny on marketing. I wouldn't spend a single brain cell on my strategy until I made sure I knew that. And I say that because most firms and most experts, they think they know that. They convince themselves they know that without taking the time to actually pressure test what they think they know. So that's really the first pillar, is understanding what your audience cares about and building visibility for your expertise that has a direct relevance to that.
And my follow-up question, my next question for you is expertise into visibility. And can you discuss the journey from being an expert in a field to becoming a visible expert? What is the most critical steps or mindsets in this transformation?
Yeah, I love talking about this. It's something that we came upon, speaking of uncovering answers where there wasn't previously an answer. We've been doing research on professional services for a couple decades. What gets traction and what grows. And we discovered 5 or so years ago that there was something that certain builders of wealth were doing. They were becoming visible as experts. So we coined this phrase, visible expertise. And as we've studied the best ways to do that, we've laid the framework around 7 steps. And they're pretty straightforward, but they're important. First and foremost, understand your audience, like I talked about moments ago. Second, understand what's important to you as you grow and scale. You need to know, are you going to grow organically? Are you a lifestyle business, or do you want to leave generations of wealth? Knowing that is important. Number 3, once you have that understanding under your belt, how should your firm or you as an expert be positioned? What's the language that describes the DNA of who you are, what you do, and why you should be selected? Number 4 is, armed with all of that intel, create your messaging playbook. This is the marketing messaging that brings your brand to life, the things that people see on your website, the things they see in your brochure, those headlines that captivate them to say, "Ooh, okay, that's interesting. I really want to learn more." And then 5, 6, and 7 are really the strategies and tools. Number 5, what marketing techniques and in what channels should you make those techniques visible based on how your audience learns? 6, what tools do you need to allow that strategy to unfold? And then 7, one of the most important, measure, track, learn from what you measure and track, rinse, repeat.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of my colleagues and cohorts were all physicians, and a lot of them are they're parlaying their experience and their expertise in the clinical setting into kind of the marketing setting. And talk about marketing challenges in technology and consulting. And what are some unique challenges you face when developing marketing strategies for the technology and consulting industries?
I think one of the biggest challenges is just the reality of these firms. We call it the seller doer model, where the people we're trying to develop visibility for, they're the rainmakers. They're the ones bringing in the deals. They're the ones building the book of business. They're the ones building the practice. And so they're very busy individuals. Yet they are the ones whose authentic expertise needs to be brought to the fore. And so what does that mean? I think they're on board. These folks are on board with, hey, I need to develop some relevant content. I'm not talking blog just because everybody blogs. I'm not talking go on social media just because people say you do it. I'm talking about educating your audience. That 4 a.m. problem, you know what they do? They go online and they try to learn about it. So the idea is, make sure that your opinions, your information is in that mix, is in that dialogue when your audience is out there searching. So that's really the biggest hurdle, is time. How do you help these folks not only latch on to this idea that you can't just sit around and wait for referrals? That's going to build about a tenth of your total potential book of business. I can go down a rabbit hole of data on that. But referrals, a referral only strategy will really cap your growth potential. So you need to be findable, need to be visible to the people who've never heard of you before, who are never going to get referred your way. And it takes time and attention. But I think once they see a clear strategy and why it works and how to measure it, the guard starts coming down and they relax a bit.
Yeah, interesting. We're going to talk about the role of data, marketing, analytics, AI. One big question I have for you is, you say go where your audience is. And is it possible that a influencer in today's economy can survive without having a presence on social media? Because if your audience is not using Google or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn, do you need to have a presence there, or are they just, or is it good, or are they wasting their time, or is it you have to have a presence online?
Such an excellent question. In most cases, you're going to have a presence online. Why is that? Even if your audience isn't learning and gathering information, guess who is? The influencers of your audience. So a lot of times, an audience that is not tapped in and doesn't learn digitally and is still learning via traditional methods, a lot of times they're asking, hey, who do you know that could solve this problem? Who do you know that specializes in Y? How about those experts in Z? And yeah, they're going to learn through their traditional methods, but 9 times out of 10, and our data supports this, those traditional learners will ask somebody whom they trust on who do they know that could solve this problem. And what do those people do? They're the online learners. So that's why really having a balance, we don't say have an all digital strategy, nor do we say have an all traditional. It's really got to be a balance because that's really how the world learns.
Yeah. Fascinating. And I really love this because I've been pondering the power of just digital marketing and the power of social media and just insights from getting from the buyer and reverse engineering that. And you wrote a book actually called Inside the Buyer's Brain. And what are some surprising insights about what motivates buyers of professional services?
Oh, that's one of my favorite bodies of research. We've been doing that for about 7 years now. And one of the really surprising results of that is that expertise trumps relationship. What do I mean by that? A lot of times we think relationship is the primary driver of our business, and that if we have a great relationship, we're going to keep our clients for a lifetime. It doesn't work that way. What the data shows is that a newcomer can unseat the incumbent even when that relationship is super, super strong and in place if their expertise is more relevant. How do you make sure your expertise is more relevant? It's by not only saying what you're an expert in, but by messaging and tying what you're an expert in to what your audience cares about. And a lot of times, those of us who have these long entrenched relationships, we just don't even think about that. We just say what we're passionate about and hope that keeps everything in place, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Where does AI play into this? Because now we've got data analytics, we got marketing, got social media marketing, we got platforms, influencers. How has the role of data evolved in shaping marketing strategies, and how do you see AI playing out in all of this mix?
Yeah, AI, my answer today is probably going to be different than what I would say tomorrow because it's changing that rapidly. I'm being hyperbolic, but it is changing so, so fast. But in today's landscape, on the one hand, AI is like a force accelerant to knowledge. It's a force accelerant to all the good measurements, which then help us test what we're doing and make sure that what we're doing is yielding the results that we expect and need to drive us forward. So we are so much more efficient in today's world with AI than we were even last year in our ability to capture information to capture information that we already had and we had no idea it existed. So that's what I love about AI and where it's pushing us. Where I don't love it so much is on the content side. I think a lot of experts want to take a shortcut, and there are no shortcuts on the pathway to being a visible expert. I'll tell you that. But the only shortcut is maybe hire a ghostwriter who can help you write. But other than that's the only shortcut you get. And a lot of experts think that AI can be a tool for producing content. And most of us are quite aware that AI really is only as intelligent as we've told it to be. It therefore does not have your unique perspective. It doesn't have your latest and greatest. It doesn't have any evolved thinking really on what you are an expert in. It can only regurgitate what it's been told. So that's really the caution. And I don't know, for some reason, I still see so much AI generated content out there, and you're just adding to the noise. So you're wasting your time if you're doing that.
I really love what you said is AI is a force multiplier. So if you put out junk, you're going to get more junk. But if you actually talk about, if you're very strategic with who your audience is and use it to brainstorm new things and put things together in new and different and creative ways for your audience, that can be a huge force multiplier, especially with viral shorts and reels and all of that. The really fascinating one thing is you have this, whereas with the rapid evolution of online marketing, what future trends should people be on the lookout for in 2025 and beyond? And what tips can you share for content creations?
Yeah, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because one of the things that I keep hearing, speaking of AI, is that SEO is dead. And that you therefore don't even have to worry about content. It doesn't matter anyway. You're never going to get found because AI is producing. When you do a search now, the first thing that comes up is the AI generated definition or answer. But what people don't realize is number one, SEO is most certainly not dead. And if you look to the right of any of those AI generated responses, there is a box that says source content. If you are producing well written, highly informative, with a unique perspective thought leadership, with well researched keywords that your audience is actually using and that you actually have a chance of ranking for, guess what? You can be found in, or you can be listed in that source box. So that's everything because you're right up there with the AI definition. The other tip I would have is I like to think of having a content model. I have this Venn diagram in my head, and on the left, in the left sphere, is your lane of expertise. Where can you truly lay a stake in the ground around you as an expert? The other sphere is like we talked earlier. What does your audience care about? What are they grappling with? The intersection of those two is like this magic recipe for what you should be producing content around, where you should be speaking, where you should be networking. Speaking, publishing, and networking is everything when it comes to this, building this visibility that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, really, on the same lines, because I actually was in the camp that SEO was dead until Chat GPT came out and basically AI and analytics, because now that's a lot more powerful. Where do you see blogging? Because everybody's saying, don't blog, start a newsletter. What are your thoughts?
I think blog content absolutely has a place in the world. Why? Because number one, it matches how learners are still trying to learn. They don't want to invest more than a couple minutes, seconds, really, of their time. So they will scan content. When they hear the word newsletter, we haven't yet convinced audiences that newsletters are nothing more than a promotional look at me, I have a new office here, and we did a new logo and it's purple. A lot of times, so blog has the connotation with audiences still that, okay, this is an article. And if I've found it, then chances are it's going to have some valuable content. Let me scan. The other reason blogs are so valuable is because they can be source content for other types of content. You mentioned video earlier. One of the things we do at Hinge is we teach our clients how to write a blog. And these days, for a blog to get traction online, it needs to be triple the number of words that it used to have to be. So it needs to be like between 1,500 and 2,500 words. You can take a single blog and generate 4 or 5 little snippets of video content. You can create so many other types of content from that single piece. So it has lots and lots of traction. And I mean, we need to live in a world of efficiency. So I'm all on board with finding efficient ways to use content.
Yeah. Are Twitter and LinkedIn the new types of blogging as opposed to a blog on a website? Is the kind of, because, you can write articles, micro articles. Is that what you think?
That's another great question. Twitter/X still up in the air on how valuable it is or isn't. But yes, in today's professional environment, LinkedIn is everything. And I would recommend when it comes to a blog, make sure it's in 2 places at minimum. One is on your website and also on your personal LinkedIn profile. If you're an expert and you're part of a larger practice that has its own brand, or you're part of a firm, we have found through testing and the LinkedIn algorithm favors blogs that are coming from an individual's profile versus being posted on your company's LinkedIn page. But those two places, LinkedIn and your website for sure.
Yeah, fascinating. That's really insightful. I know we have a few more minutes left, and for advice for aspiring marketers and people that want to do what you're doing, because you have actually interest in martial arts, and you just have you balance professional, personal passions. What final piece of advice would you have for those influence out there that want to pursue your line, influencer marketing, content creation, and how can people find you?
Well, lots of good questions. I do think that it is no longer an option to achieve balance. That is today's non-negotiable. I think that we learned that over the last couple years, right? That if you don't have that, you really have nothing. So, however you need to achieve it. With my team, we actually don't have a physical office anymore, but when we did, we would do meetings where I would have a set of barbells in my office and we would do lunges up and down the hallway. If we didn't have to be in front of a screen, why not? So I think that however you can leverage your day to take those times out for the most important person on this earth, that's you. And if you don't prioritize yourself, you're not going to get anything else right. So that's what I've learned, and that's what I do. And where can people find me? So I am on LinkedIn, Elizabeth Harr. And also, I would ask people to go to the Hinge website. They can find me there, but probably more interestingly, they can find all of this great research for free. You don't even have to get on a list for it. Grab the research and see what you can learn.
Yeah. And thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom, and keep up the great work, and happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you as well.